in our communities for decades, Dutchess Outreach being one of them, Family Services being another. But there's also younger people on the committee who really made a name for themselves in a matter of years doing outreach in very important places in our county that have been traditionally hard to count. So I'm really glad for the work that we're doing, but I do want to emphasize that, you know, if we rely just on this committee to do the work, we're going to fail. That this really is a human spider web, and that all of you have trusted sources, people that trust you. There are people I'm looking at right now that there are people that elected you. It's a very personal thing to vote for someone to office, and those people are people you can reach and hopefully give them the right information about the census and why it's so important. So on that, I will take any questions from the board. If you want, I could take questions from the public, or I could
yes,
talk to them
as long
afterwards.
as they come up to the podium.
Okay. We want to start with the board, or any questions from the board?
Does anybody have any questions?
No.
I should say we also have an email address, excuse me. It's completecount@dutchessny.gov if you have any questions. And anyone wants my card, or you know, a supervisor knows how to reach me, I can get you all sorts of material both in digital form and in printed form. Okay, thank you. Yes. Oh, okay, sure. We get to share the mic.
Question. The confidentiality, would that also be true if you answer on the internet, that your internet information doesn't go to someone or get recorded somewhere? How confidential is that?
It's as confidential as it can be. The census has never had a breach. There have been breaches in federal government data. That has not, fortunately, been one of them. So it's as confidential as we would want to expect. I really appreciate you bringing that up, because I keep saying that we only do this once every 10 years. And if you think about what's happened over the last 10 years in regard to the trust or lack thereof in government, of people being concerned about privacy, of all sorts of breaches, that I think we have tough sledding. I think we really need to make people understand what the census does, why it's important to fill out. And one other thing I want to point out is that when you fill out the census, it asks for certain information. One of the information, the biggest things that it asks for is the names of the people living in the house, and that's really important. The number and name of the people living. And a lot of times, children are undercounted, and there's two main reasons for that. One is because if you have a 7-month-old at home, you might think, well, this isn't pertinent to my seven-month-old child. I don't need to count the 7-month, and so people forget to count their children that way. The other big reason for that is just privacy, security. People are really afraid to give out information about their children. But if we undercount children by millions and millions of people, which could happen, remember all the services provided, well, a lot of this, I should say not all, but a lot of the services that are provided to communities are based on census numbers, and you don't want your community to be shortchanged.
So are you going to leave any information, or are you just going to send me what?
I have some information I can leave, and I can send you additional information for sure.
Okay, because we'd like to put it on our website and on our Channel 22.
That's great. Well, the slide, the PowerPoint I gave you should be something you should be able to do, but I could give it, basically what I did is I kind of had a cut, because PowerPoints are pretty horizontal, what the census had, and we reconfigured it for a PowerPoint, which has gone over pretty well. I think it's pretty
And you
easy
said
to
you
use.
had it in Spanish as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I'd like both.
You will get both.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. Public comment?
Sharon Kroger. So often we come to you when something's wrong or we want to complain. And I like to sometimes come when something went appropriately and when it's working. So my comment is that, and I think most of the public may be unaware of this situation where the Kent Hollow mine was, appeal was unanimously rejected by the ZBA, and it took 2 years to do it, and it was done meticulously. We all had to learn to keep quiet and watch and not have opinions during that period because we weren't supposed to inappropriately influence anybody. And the fact-finding was extraordinarily careful, and the lawyer that the town hired for this was excellent. That was George Lithgow, and we want to commend you. I want to commend you, and I'm sure others do too, for that good work. And we look forward to seeing the follow-through. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, supervisors report. Wassaic Trail to the Train update. Total grant amount for this project is $832,000, which includes Dormitory Authority $100,000, CDBG $100,000, DOT $250,000, and $382,000 for the original TEP grant. The lowest bid for the project is $1,224,397. Metro North wants an additional $100,000 for flagman costs, in addition to $49,000 they required for their entry permit after waiving the $1,200 fee. The DOT construction management plan requires a full-time Town of Amenia employee, which originally was Stan Whitehead, who resigned. This means that a project manager will have to be hired. The town board has decisions to make regarding how much to borrow to keep this project alive. Noise law update, decision to be made whether to send all comments to Dave Everett's office to do a new draft. Regional ambulance grant, after meeting with NDP and requesting new draft with changes, which have been reviewed by town attorneys, NDP sent new contract proposal with negotiated annual prices from the towns of Northeast, Dover, and Amenia, which needs to be reviewed by towns next week. Grant update, Supervisor Victoria Perotti, grant writer Mike Haggerty will be attending the free water infrastructure and grants workshop hosted by Senator Kirsten Gillibrand at the Franklin D. Roosevelt Presidential Library and Museum. Solar law, introduction of local law, resolution of public hearing date to be set are the next steps. 2020 budget. Worksheets have been given to all department heads and are required to be returned to the bookkeeper by September 11th. The tax cap is 2% for 2020. Town clerk report.
Good evening. Last meeting, the July 18th and August 1st minutes were circulated. The July 18th minutes, as emailed out, have one sentence change that was proposed and submitted by Councilwoman Doyle. Has everybody had the opportunity to review them again this evening? And are you ready to move on them?
I've read the first ones,
July
but
18th.
have not finished the August 1st.
Okay.
I read them. I don't have a problem with them.
Okay.
I read it. Okay, so do you want to just do the 18th? And
That's
not
fine.
do August 1st or whatever?
That's
it will
fine.
be?
That's fine.
Okay.
Do you want to move on them?
Yes, I'll make
Michelle?
a motion that we move on to read, to accept the minutes for July 18th.
Second.
Councilwoman Smoji?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Okay, so if we get a chance to look at the August 1st, we can come back to it. I report this evening to the board that the total revenues for the office were $4,126.58, to which the local share was remitted to the town supervisor in the amount of $4,096.58, and that is for the month of August. Highway bids are currently being accepted in the office for the 2019-2020 highway materials. We did not receive any applications or letter of interest for the advertised dance instructor. Currently in the office, we are have a big push with our DEC sales. So those, all of our hunters know what that means, is that you're coming in and getting your hunting licenses for this new season. As a friendly reminder, our school taxes are coming to be due this month, and they're payable to your respective school districts. So that's either Weebatuck Central School District or your Dover School District. And I do have a lot of community events that I'd like to share for our fire districts. The Amenia Fire Company is picking up with their breakfast. It's going to begin on September 15th. It's from 7:30 to 11 a.m. Also, the Amenia Fire Company is hosting a town-wide tag sale. It's, of course, to benefit the Amenia Fire Company. This is going to be held on Saturday, September 28th, from 9 a.m. until 2 p.m. There's a table set up and registration will be beginning at 8 a.m. It is over at the Amenia Firehouse grounds. It's $20 per space.
What time?
It's from 9 to 2.
9 to 2.
So if you want to register and have your own table, you come in at 8.
You have to pre-register for that?
Amenia Fire Company. She can hear me, but she's not looking at me. This will be posted on the bulletin board as well as website and our TV. Also, I am sharing with you that we have met, the Amenia Fire Company has met with Rebuild Together. So Ms. Borick, who is here and presented to us the upcoming projects, the Amenia Fire Company is partnering with them, and we're looking to work on providing reflective house numbers and other safety installations for qualified homeowners. As Ms. Borick presented to us at the meeting 2 meetings ago. Rebuild Together is here in our county. We do have applications here at the Amenia Town Hall offering for improvements for home safety fire inspection program. We'd like to remind everyone that October is Fire Prevention Month because we have our weeks and we celebrate with the children in schools. But it also reminds all of us as homeowners that this is a great time of year that we should be changing our batteries and our smoke detectors and our CO detectors. We all know that they're really installed and they're with wires now, but for those of us that still have battery-operated ones, we are changing our batteries. So if anyone in the community is seeking information on Rebuild Together, I have all of the flyers and packets. They'll be out on the front table when you first come in. I'll also post them on the community bulletin board, and I'll be getting them information to Mike so he can post it on Channel 22 as well as our website. So there's a lot of flyers and information that'll all be shared, and it'll be under the community updates.
In addition, if anyone wants to apply for repairs to their home, the deadline is September 30th.
Members of Rebuild will also be at the Amenia Pancake Breakfast on the 15th and be able to answer any questions that you may have. Not that we don't have enough breakfast all week long, but we also have on September 22nd, the Wassaic Fire Company has a breakfast, and that's from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m. And they are having a vendor fair. The Wassaic Auxiliary is having their annual vendor fair and Chinese auction. That is going to be held on Saturday, October 19th, with the doors opening at 10 a.m. and the drawings will begin at 1:30. If anyone that's looking for a space, if they could please call 373-9557 or area code 845-235-9326. Again, these flyers were just sent to me the later part of this
And what is the
afternoon.
date for them?
That's going to be October 19th.
October
So we'll hear
19th.
that one more time. Next month, I'll be sure to announce it. But Nancy just sent me all this information, so I want to make sure. Save the date, mark your calendars, know that the fire departments are doing a lot of activities for you here in the community. And it's not just our fire departments that are trying to bring awareness to you. FASNY, which is the Firemen's Association of the State of New York, is reaching out to all of the residents who may not realize that more than 70% of all fire and emergency responses in the Empire State is handled by your volunteers. And with our volunteers drastically reducing in numbers and in volume, they're making a big push, and they just want to let everyone know that their campaign title this year is "They're a Fire in You." So they're looking to seek out to anyone within the communities that may be looking to volunteer to contact your local fire departments. And right here in Amenia, you're very fortunate. You have 2 fire districts. You have the Amenia Fire District and the Wassaic Fire District. Both of those men and women put many effortless hours in with continued training and support for you. So if anyone has that fire in you and you're looking to join your fire department, please do so.
Are there any age restrictions?
There is no age restrictions. There is plenty of things for the young to do as well as the older to do.
Even people my age?
People your age, absolutely. You can come to the meetings, you can help do tables, you can come help us serve breakfast.
Wonderful.
You can, there's plenty to do. So please come on out. There's fire police, it's pretty easy. You come out, you just stop the traffic and let the young fellas run into the fire.
Okay.
So please, there are no restrictions. And that'll conclude my report for this evening.
A building report. We have issued 10 new building permits totaling $6,845.25. 6 searches are for certificate of occupancy, totaled $850. 3 fire inspections of $150, along with 5 tent permits of $1,050, 3 renewals of $525, and 1 operating permit of $150, bringing the total for the month to $9,570.25. Are there any committee reports?
I'd just like to ask if, in the absence of a response to the dance instructor advertisement, is Mike Haggerty going to follow up with another option? Because I know we were awarded $3,000, so we need to work with Berkshire Taconic and make sure that something happens with that program, right?
Well, yeah, well, he needs to be told that. I don't think
That's what I was just saying, is what is
Yeah.
that next step? So that the grant that I always wrote for was due, the end of December. So we have a short timeline for actually completing whatever it was that he applied for, which I assume was based on the old model of
Yes.
putting a program together in the fall. So that window is closing very rapidly on being able to successfully fulfill a project that we have done successfully for years.
Well, I'm meeting with him tomorrow, so I can talk to him about it.
Have we considered reaching out to some of the schools in the area? Maybe there's some, or some of the church people. There might be some people that are in those locations, like the schools, the teachers, they have music and they have dance and things like that. Also, I know there's some people in the town that teach music. There may be someone who teaches dance or something like that. We thought of actually, sending them a little, are you interested? Would you like to do this? Do you know someone who would?
I don't know to what degree we've reached out beyond the advertising.
Just in the Millerton News, the website.
Yeah.
I've, in the past, reached out to Millbrook School because I just happened to know they had a really good dance program and a really great instructor, but time and again, she was not interested. She did not need another part-time job. The concern that I've run into in the past is just that people with established students and programs already have their students coming after school and on weekends, so they serve their current clientele. You need somebody kind of who's flexible and available to suddenly take up, a 3-month, 4-month gig.
Okay, yeah.
So the kids are already in school, so they need to.
Well, how about, I'm just going to throw things out. I'm going to throw things out to everybody here in the public. The Dutchess Community College, they have music and dance. Is there some way to contact them? Because maybe there's some students there that are advanced enough that they might be able to come down and put a program together for us with our youngsters. Or if you're out there, whoever you are, and you have that ability to work with youngsters and you know about some music or some dance or stage setting or something like that, please feel free to contact us. We would love to have this program continue. And like everything else, really, in the town of Amenia, it's volunteers, though we do have a stipends and stuff for you when you come in and stuff, but we just would love to have anyone who might be interested. And if anybody out there knows someone, maybe you have a I'm saying that, because I have a bunch. If you have an older child in college or graduating or something like that, or you have a daughter or a son that you know has this talent to do these things, feel free to just contact us and let us know that you're interested, because we really would like to see this program be successful. It's a very delightful time. We have it here in the town hall on our stage, and we'll work with you to get you whatever you need. So just call us.
Is there any other committee reports?
Well, the other thing I have here, let me see, is, get that out of the way, is our trip to, we had a great trip to Lake George. We had a really great time to Lake George. It rained on the way up and it rained on the way down, but while we were on the boat, the sun shined. God bless us, we had a good time. And we had 45 people on that trip. The waterfront at Silver Birches, which takes place, it's a German festival, and it's going to be on Wednesday, October 9th. Price is $45 a person. I have 24 people signed up already, and as I said before, I was only allotted 40 seats at Silver Birches. So if you have said to me sometime, or you said to yourself, oh, I want to do that, give me a call and sign up right away so we can make sure you get a seat, okay? Because I only have 40 seats. I'm sorry, I can't do more than that, okay? So, but thank you all very much for that.
Any other committee reports? No? Okay. Resolution to set public hearing for 2020 CDBG. I have a spelling error there. Resolution number?
66.
66. Good. Marching on. A resolution authorizing a public hearing regarding ideas for community development block grant projects in the town of Amenia in 2020. Whereas the town of Amenia desires to continue to seek community development block grants as a member of the Dutchess County Community Development Block Grant Urban Consortium, whereas the town of Amenia would like to hear ideas from the public regarding potential projects for the town board to consider in 2020. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Amenia hereby authorizes the publication of a legal notice in the official newspaper announcing that a public hearing will be held at the Amenia Town Hall at 7 p.m. on September 19th. Is that enough time?
September, you're here.
It should be.
Public hearing.
Yeah.
Wait, September 19th, is that the right date? Wait, is that, wait,
Yes.
oh, is that our 12? Oh, that's when we're meeting. Oh, I'm sorry.
It'll go if we advertise on the 12th.
2 weeks from today.
So there's enough time?
Gotta give them 5 days. Is that all they need?
Yeah.
I'm going to be here.
Okay. September 19, 2019, to hear ideas from the public and discuss the 2020 grant application process that has a due date of October 18, 2019. I make that motion.
Second.
Supervisor Prodi?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilman Doyle? Excuse me, Councilwoman Smargy?
Yes.
So used to seeing you right next to me.
Okay, resolution reintroducing the solar law and setting the public hearing. Okay, resolutions 67.
Yes. I'm changing it.
Reintroducing proposed local law number 2 of the year 2019 to amend Chapter 121 zoning of the Amenia Town Code to add a new section 121-X, we're not sure with the number, entitled Solar Energy Systems. Whereas by resolution number 34, 2019, adopted by the Town of Amenia Town Board on May 16, 2019, the Town Board considered the adoption of local law number 2 of the year 2019 to amend Chapter 121, zoning of the Amenia Town Code to add a new section 121-X entitled Solar Energy Systems, whereas a public hearing was held and comments recommendations were made that required significant amendments to the proposed local law. Whereas since significant amendments were made to the proposed local law, it has been determined that it is appropriate and necessary to resubmit the amended local law for review and public comment and hold another public hearing. Whereas the town board has determined that the proposed action is a type 1 action pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, Part 617 NY-CRR, commonly known as seeker, whereas the proposed local law is an action for which there are no other involved agencies, and that the town board is therefore by default the lead agency for this action. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board hereby reintroduces for consideration for its adoption proposed local law number 2 of the year 2019 in the form annexed hereto. Be it further resolved that the town board has determined that the proposed action is a type 1 action pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, Part 617 NY-CRR, known as seeker, and be it further resolved that the town board is the only agency having the approval authority for the adoption of this local law and is therefore lead agency for the purpose of seeker. Be it further resolved that the town board hereby schedules a public hearing regarding the proposed adoption of the annexed local law for 7 p.m. Is there enough? Do that on the 19th as well?
No,
Or we
that
have
should
to-
go out 30 days.
So that needs to go out 30 days. So that would
Yeah,
be,
what's our,
So our first one is going to be October 3rd, so our second one is going to be October 17th. That'll allow 30 days. That'll also give time to send to the county and get the
Yeah.
circulation again.
yep,
so October at 7 o'clock on October 17th?
yes.
2019 to be held at Town Hall, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, and the town clerk is directed to post a notice of public hearing in the town's official newspaper, the Millerton News, and on the signboard maintained by the town clerk in the town hall, not less than 10 days prior to said public hearing date as required by law. And be it further resolved, the town board further directs the town clerk to act as follows with respect to the proposed local law. A, to serve a copy of this resolution, the annexed proposed local law, Part 1, of the full environmental assessment form and the notice of public hearing to the municipal clerk of each abutting municipality not less than 10 days prior to said public hearing. B, to serve a copy of this resolution, the annexed proposed local law in Part 1 of the full environmental assessment form to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development for advisory review in accordance with Section 239M of the General Municipal Law. C, to serve a copy of this resolution, the annexed proposed local law, Part 1 of the full environmental assessment form and the notice of public hearing to the Town of Amenia Planning Board for its review and recommendation prior to said public hearing. D, to serve a copy of the proposed local law to the Department of Agriculture and Markets for review pursuant to Section 305A of the New York State Agriculture and Markets Law. Can I make that motion?
Second.
Councilwoman Smoji.
Yes.
Councilman Morris.
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle.
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti.
Yes. I don't have to read the notice of public hearing?
No.
No. Okay, before we get into our discussions, under other matters, we do have another resolution that we need to do. So we might as well get all our resolutions done. So this would be 68.
Yes.
Amending Resolution Number 64 of 2019, authorizing naming a private road for E911 Sparrow View. Whereas the Town of Amenia Town Board had previously adopted Resolution Number 64 of 2019, which authorized the naming of a private drive in a mixed-use resort community known as the Silo Ridge Field Club as Sparrow View. And whereas it has been brought to the Town Board's attention that the name of the private drive should have been Sparrow View Drive, whereas the Town of Amenia Planning Board has approved and authorized the name of Sparrow View Drive, whereas Dutchess County Emergency 911 has approved the name of the new road, subject to confirmation by the town board. Now therefore be it resolved, the town board of the town of Amenia hereby amends the resolution number 64 of 2019 to reflect the name of the private drive as Sparrow View Drive, and be it further resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to file any and all documents necessary to effectuate the intent of this resolution. Be it further resolved that resolution number 64 of 2019 shall otherwise remain in full force and effect. Make that motion.
Second.
Councilwoman Smoji?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. Now, noise law discussion. What I wanted to know is if you want to send all of the comments that we have received thus far to Dave Everett's office, who proposed the original draft, and have him put together another draft.
I have spoken informally to the zoning review committee members, and they've done, at least Nina has done more research on other towns who have recently, made changes to their own laws and found what might be a good, simpler solution, and I would like to hear that before we go and spend more money on the lawyers to bring that up.
So you'd like to hear more comments?
I would like to hear more comments from our zoning review commission if Nina can summarize her comments from her recent research. Thankfully,
Okay.
the price is right. It wouldn't hurt to see a simpler version that she's would like us to consider or believes might be another alternative.
But we're still considering an amendment to the current, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right.
So do you want me to ask Nina to forward the comments, share her comments to the town board?
Yeah, that would be good. Just so we can get something in place by the end of the year.
Is she going to come here and present it so that everyone in the town hears it, or that we all understand?
I think the first step would maybe to
We
have
need to
her
look at it
summarize
first.
it. And
We
then
need
if
to-
you're interested, great. If you're not interested, we go with what we've already hashed
Okay,
out
okay.
and send it on to the lawyer.
Okay.
Okay, Trail to the Training project discussion. This project is kind of taking on a life of its own with the expenses. And I'm not sure where I just feel like the town board needs to think about this and where you want to go with this.
My first question is, so I see from your report, you reminded us what the bid was. Are we already, how far off are we on spending? Because I know we've already spent down some of the allotted money for engineering and design, right? Are we still
Right.
relatively on budget, or are we just able to pull that out of existing budgets year after year?
Well, in order to keep, since it's a federal grant, in order to keep the grant alive, we have had to send in reimbursement.
Right.
So we receive reimbursement for some of the WSP cost. And when Metro North insisted that they had to have $49,000 for their entry permit for the flagman, I mean, we also sent that cost.
Upfront, right? We sent that out.
We sent that out to Metro North, but then we were able to take that cost and send it into DOT as reimbursement.
Right.
from the grant. So the original grant was $600,000 with a $120,000 match.
680, wasn't it?
No, it was 600. And 480 is how much?
A 480, okay.
Yeah.
480 is the, okay.
480 is the actual amount of the grant because 120,000 was.
Our match, our
was our
responsibility,
match.
okay.
So what's left of that original grant is $382,000.
Okay, so that has already been spent out, which was not budgeted prior, or did we have a line in that original budget for $49,000 of
No.
That's
Well,
the new
I had to
cost.
take that, I had to take that out
new
of our
cost? So
budget.
we don't have all the money that we thought we have because we've been spending out more than we thought we needed.
And, every time I talk to Metro North, they want more. So now they want another $100,000 for flagman costs. Because they told me that, because I was trying to get a dollar amount out of them, because I said, well, I have to borrow this money. So they informed me that their costs are 206% of the basic salary cost, plus traveling, meals, and et cetera. God knows what et cetera is. I haven't been able to get a clear answer
For the
on et cetera. Yeah,
Per day.
yeah.
So we're not only just covering his costs, we're doubling his costs.
Yep.
For that day. So they're making a ton of money off of us by.
Well, they want to.
And they require the flagman to be there at all times when there's construction going on. Am I
Yes.
understanding this correctly? Did they outline this in a letter that explains all of these extra costs?
I sent you the email from
Okay.
them
All right.
that, because I was trying to get a straight answer out of them, which was no easy task. So finally, I just said, I need to know how much this is going to be. And the other thing is, the DOT construction manual, which I gave you a copy of, has a project manager on it, and they require for the project to have a project manager, a full-time employee from the town of Amenia, who will be there every day overseeing the project. And right now, we don't have that person. So on top of the bid of $1,224,397 million, the additional $100,000 that Metro North wants, we would have to hire a person to also see that. And if you look at the original bid specs, which I gave you, there was also an alternate, which we didn't accept at the time. We just accepted the for additional $228,750, and that's to put the lighting and fill all the other requirements that everything that's required, because this is a transportation grant, and this path will need to be open 24/7 and need to have adequate lighting, and has other requirements as well. So, I mean, I don't have an additional $100,000 for flagman cost in the budget unless I take it out of, out of fund balance.
They need that up front before we start construction?
They want a letter from me saying that we will pay this.
And then they subtract, or they then bill you. It isn't necessarily 100,000, they just want to be guaranteed that they have.
Well, they said the 49,000, no, they're telling me that in addition to the 49,000, that it's going to cost another 100,000 for flagman costs, based on the project. So I'm just trying to figure out how much to borrow for this project, and also, do we go ahead and hire a project manager, and, how do we, how much do we pay for that? It just keeps snowballing.
So the SP cells, WSP cells, or whatever they're now called, had done the bid specs and all of that, was that not anticipated? This is just something that is new that the DOT requires, or is this something that they just forgot to
requires?
tell us about it? I thought the DOT requires us to do that to administer this federal grant,
Oh,
the full-time manager or project manager.
yes, they did. And, at one time, we had person, but,
Well, we knew then that we needed somebody. He was not going to be full-time, he was going to be part-time, right?
Well, it doesn't matter at this point. We don't have anybody. And what my point is, the costs keep going up and up and up. I mean, we do have $832,000 in grants, but you don't get the grants until you spend the money. And at this point, I don't know, I'm not sure how much should I borrow, the $1,224,397, which is what Colarusso wants to do, and also borrow the $100,000 for the flagman, and, enough to, hire a project manager to oversee this.
What would be the cost of the project manager?
Well, we are talking a full-time employee, 40 hours a week, whatever we,
But this
pay
life
him.
of this project won't be a full year, right? So you said the construction would be a couple of months or 3 months?
3 to 4 months.
3 to 4 months, so a full-time equivalent of 3 or 4 months.
$100,000 is an awful lot for 2 to 4 months.
Oh, no. That's
No,
for
the 100 grand's for the flagman.
Yeah, I know. But that seems like an inordinate amount of money.
I know, well,
I think they're
that's what they want.
blowing this up, and they're going to then charge down from that, right? They're just imagining the worst possible case scenario, right?
No, they figured how many flagmen they need based on the construction plan. That's what they're basing it on. So do you want to advertise for project manager, and how much do you want to borrow for this? Because I'm just concerned about the finance part of it.
Well, first of all, we'll have to pay back all the money that we have spent to date if we decide not to go forward with this. If we do not build a
Well,
trail,
if we don't build a
we
trail,
owe
it's
$100,000 back to get us nowhere, not to mention all of the other work
Well,
that's
then
been
if
done.
at that point, if we don't do it, I would get the $49,000 back from Metro North, and that's half the $100,000.
So,
Because they're holding that down there hostage.
This project has been in the works for how many years? 10?
At least.
2007.
And I've been, all the grants, I've been renewing them every year, so they didn't go away. I mean, I have worked on this for years and done everything that they wanted done, including procuring land for the trail from a private landowner. I mean, I have followed everything they said. The only place where I did dig my heels in, DOT had originally sent us a highway permit, and it expired, so we asked them to renew it, and they said, oh, but we forgot last time. Our signal people thinks there should be 7 more seconds added to the signal light at the train station. And
Where the
Metro
trail
North, Metro North, needed to do the work, so I asked how much was that, and they said 15,000, so I called up someone at Metro North, and I said, is this 15,000 realistic? And he said, oh, probably not. So in the meantime, I went to a meeting because DOT and a group called CTE, they were required to do a study of all the crossings in Dutchess County to see how safe they were. And I went to a meeting and I talked to them about it and found out, well, DOT is the one who's in charge of all the crossings. So I went back to them and said, why are you expecting me to pay for this? this is your problem. So then, all of a sudden, they were going to pay for it. So it's been, it's been a lot of work, and you have to stay on your toes and make sure, you're not being charged inappropriately from some entity who has a mind of their own. But I just,
So would DOT have, be able to tell us whether this $100,000 is realistic? Are we being suddenly soaked?
I actually talked to the person who's in charge of the flagman down there, and
In charge of the flagman for Metro North?
for Metro North.
Okay.
And this is
Standard.
this is what they expect. They said they get 206% of the salary plus travel time, and
So when we were budgeting for this, if this is typical, I don't understand why this wasn't part of the budget originally.
the problem with the original grant is that when the grant application was signed, the supervisor at the time was more concerned with how much the match would be for the town than what the trail would probably cost. I mean, the $600,000 that was originally applied for should have been at least $8
Right.
or maybe $1 million.
But we revised it with WSP cells, giving 3 alternates, and we came up with a new budget that was much more likely to be $1 million project.
Well,
And
the last,
1.5 and-
I sent you the comments from DOT
Okay.
regarding WSP cells, bid specs going out to the construction companies. And if you read it closely, you will find out that DOT was extremely unhappy with the amounts that were in the bid specs because they came in considerably higher, the different parts of the
Right.
bids, than what WSP expected them to. Because the last amount I got for this project, according to WSP, was $920,000. The low bid came in at $1,224,397, which was way over the expected. It's just taken on a life of its own. I've worked with every single entity. I've tried to, I've gone after people who they, try to dump fees on us and said, no way, that's not going to happen. You're in charge of that. Why am I paying for it? And I just, the board is going to have to let me know if, you want to continue with this project, how much do you want to borrow, and where we go from here. Because I can't do this myself.
So is the community development block grant a possibility for giving additional money grant towards this project?
No, this grant, Community Development Block Grant,
Oh, right, we
They
haven't finished
have-
the last one. Okay.
no, the Community Development Block Grant, this is a separate one. This is the one they originally gave us, I
Yeah.
believe in 2011. What I've been doing with the county, and they have worked with me, is renewing it every year. Can you renew it every year? So these grants have been renewed every year. And then 2 years ago, there was like a pool of money from DOT for projects that weren't completed or people who didn't use their grant money. So Mike and I applied for that, and we got $250,000 from that pool of money, because I just believe if you don't ask, you don't get. So we, applied for everything we could possibly get to get enough, money for this project. But considering, if we do borrow a large amount of money for this, and somewhere along the line, we have to build a highway garage, and we'll have to borrow for that. So I just don't know where we should go with this from now on, because I'm really concerned about the taxpayers taking on a lot of debt that might be more than we should.
Is there a deadline now for getting the construction? That bid is good for how many?
It's good now.
Yeah, but will it be good next year?
There is no next year. If we don't do it this year, we don't, it's the grant, the original grant is over.
We have a question from the public.
Yes, if you,
Obviously, you have done extraordinarily due diligence here, and you are being victimized, really. I mean, it's something that, having watched this from the very beginning, and through where you are now, I am compassionate and concerned. I'm going to make what I call the normal next suggestion, because I think you need to be off the hook with this, but I think there may be a way to pull it out. And one suggestion is that Dee Dee Barrett is part of, as her role in the state legislature, has supervision, oversight over the MTA and Metro North. And I think it would be perfectly reasonable to go to her and ask to have a work session with whoever she can bring to help you with this, because it keeps being more elusive and it keeps getting out of reach, and new demands keep being made, and as time goes on, they're being multiplied. And this is not something you can dig your way out of all by yourself. When we created that grant initially, the committee that did it, it was a TEP grant from the feds, and it wasn't supposed to get enmeshed in all of these ongoing maintenance issues with the state. It was supposed to be a special thing in itself. It's also a public service. It's part of a linkage in a series of other connections with the rail trail and the Sylvan Glade, and then theoretically we'll move on into Dover. So you're supplying a link. You're doing public service. It's not just for Amenia, it's for everybody. And you shouldn't get stuck with this situation, which is unmanageable. So one suggestion would be Dee Dee Barrett, and if the state senator can help too, you might work that, but that would be one suggestion. Another suggestion would be, you remember Robin Hollander?
I don't know if she's still
Vicki,
there.
do you remember?
Yeah.
She's still there in the MTA system, I'm told. And she was very compassionate toward this project, and she's now in a pretty senior role. I think if you ask her, because of the smallness of our town and the limited resources and the fact that we're bearing a burden for others by linking the rail trail and the other sections that'll be down below, she, as a planner, might very well be able to suggest a shortcut, because it looks to me like what they're demanding for those flagmen is somewhat arbitrary. I mean, there's some arbitrary elements in the demands that you're describing. So that would be a second suggestion. And I don't think it would be impossible to go to Senator Schumer's office with this, because he has experts, people who dig into problems and separate the elements. And you might get a problem solver from his office that would sit down and help you with this. So those would be my three suggestions.
and I also need to know if, if the town board wants to hire a project manager to oversee this.
Do we have anybody currently employed by the town?
No.
That could not fill it? Could not
No.
fill that bill? Someone we couldn't dedicate for the project for a period of 2 to 4 months? I mean, I don't know.
Well,
I'm
you've
asking
been
the
the
question.
project manager, can't you? You have to hire somebody new?
No, this is for somebody to be down there and every single day.
But we had something in the budget for an budget that we were working from, it had somebody down there. I guess we had envisioned Stan working part-time there, and
No, the only inspectors that we currently have down there are from WSP. There's a resident engineer, an office engineer, inspector.
right.
But somebody has to, has to oversee them to make sure.
But I thought Mike Haggerty would be putting through the bills and making sure all of the receipts, the
Well,
clerk
that
of the
doesn't
works
have
is gonna be
anything-
the clerk of the works, I thought.
That doesn't have anything to do with this. I mean, he's already doing that. He's already sent in the reimbursement. This is someone who has to be down there every single day, overseeing the construction and make sure everything is, being done appropriately.
So what, does he have to be a qualified engineer or something like that, or an architect, or what?
No, it doesn't have to be an engineer or an architect. It just needs to be somebody who knows about
Knows construction?
roads, knows construction. But the other thing is, I also need to know, how much do you want to borrow for this project? We already have to borrow at least $1,224,397, and, whatever the cost would be of, for the flagman cost. You can go to whoever you want to, but their fees are their fees. And do you want to hire a temporary project manager? Because at one point, we had spoken about, or I believe it was Damien, spoke about us hiring someone who would be like a supervisor of the grounds, who would oversee projects like this and also oversee, all our properties and eventually the highway garage and that. So, I don't know if you want to, hire a person to do that and to take, who would also take this on but before the project can start, there has to be somebody hired. According to.
So does the DOT have some sense of what the qualifications would be? Some kind of description so that we know what kind of salary we would be expecting? Who does the construction for the section that's going all the way to Copake? That section is underway, right? So
The county is.
the county is paying for that, or they're overseeing it?
Right. Dutchess County is. I could,
Ask the county if they would oversee our section. I don't know. Or if
Well, I
they
could
have
talk to them
somebody-
back, but-
Yeah, if they have somebody already who does that kind of work, and maybe we pay a,
but how
portion of
much,
their-
how much do you want to borrow for this?
I don't think we should decide that tonight, Victoria. I would like to make some calls myself to some people that I know in the construction business and see what I can find out.
Okay, we can do that. We can, and we can just table it to the next meeting. Okay, in addition to other matters, we received a letter from County Executive Marcus Molinaro about Dutchess County filing an amicus curiae brief with the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of New York in support of the New York State lawsuit filed against the EPA regarding the PCBs in the Hudson River. And he's asking if other towns will offer a letter of resolution supporting the county's amicus brief, urging the court to vacate the certificate of completion. In such a letter of resolution, we ask for the inclusion of a description of how failure to properly clean up the river will impact your community. We're not close to the Hudson River, but I wondered about how everybody felt about whether or not you wanted me to do a letter or do a resolution in support of this lawsuit.
I think it's important that the river be cleaned up. I don't think they should have been let off the hook if these people are correct. Certainly, the county executive seems to think that they're correct in going after them, so I support it.
Okay, so would you like to do a letter or a resolution? What should we do?
You can do either, according to this, but I think we should probably reach out to them. Reach out to
Can you pull your microphone closer?
yeah, we can reach out to the county, see if they have any suggestions, whether they would prefer a letter or a resolution, and either way we could prepare it for next meeting.
Okay. So everybody's, I think that's a good idea to do.
I'm sure they have a sample already.
Yep.
I also have a letter agreement for Dutchess Community College. Is that something you wanted to look at a little more? Or?
I did look at this briefly, and I looked at what the current agreement is, and I think that we should talk about it a little bit further before we make any decision on this. The form of the agreement I have a concern about,
Okay.
so.
Okay, we can do that. I think that covers other matters. Public comment?
Just a suggestion on the rail trail. Sharon beat me to the punch in terms of talking to our state representatives, but I also was going to suggest, Victoria, that you find out what the requirements are in terms of whether the person who's the project manager needs to be full-time or part-time, because I know
Full-time.
they did say it had to be
Yes,
full-time.
they do.
Okay.
They're
well,
very
that's really
clear
good. Okay.
in the construction management
Well,
plan.
again, if Dutchess County is paying for that further north, it sounds like they should treat Amenia the same way they've treated other towns. So if they're covering that, I would hope that they would do
Yeah,
that
but they're
for us
paying
too.
they're paying for the rail trail to go north. We're paying for it to go to Wasac.
Right, but it's a benefit for Dutchess County. I mean, it's not, I mean, if the parts that are going north go through other towns, so extending it further south is still a benefit for Dutchess County in the way that all the other sections of the rail trail are. So it seems to me that if they provided that person for the other towns on the route of the rail trail, it seems pretty unfair or unusual for them not to do the same for us. And that seems like a potentially big cost. So, I mean, again, it's not for a full year, but it seems like the county might take on that responsibility.
I can ask them.
Thanks.
Is there other public comment, Michael?
Hi, Michael Chamberlain. I want to reinforce something that Leo said and also Sharon said before. I had the occasion to do some bicycling this summer, and I spent a little bit of time on the rail trail. And quite a bit of that time was in Millerton, some of that time was up in Copake. And you've been focused tonight on the problems, and I can certainly understand why you're focusing on the problems. You're sort of in a no-win, no-lose situation where no good deed is going unpunished, and that's a shame. It probably seems like a real downer, but I think that the potential for bringing a lot of benefits to the town of Amenia, particularly Wasac, probably for the extension is something you shouldn't lose sight of. I mean, while you're focused on how kind of depressing it is to get it done, don't forget about the big benefits at the end of the process, because I think they really are big benefits at the end of the process. With respect to what Leo said about the county, I don't have bright ideas for you, but I have a question, and that is, Mr. Molinaro is up for election. Has he been particularly helpful on this project, or has he not?
I had conversations with him. One of the things that has to happen with this trail, since it's a transportation grant, it has to be open 24/7, which means there will be a lot of maintenance for the trail. And he said when we were at the point, once the trail is built, that the county would assist in helping us keep the trail open, through the winter for, when it was snowing and whatever. So he has, he already told me that a while ago.
Well, the reason I ask is it sounds to me a little bit like the project manager that you're looking for now is possibly a little premature, because you're not quite at the construction phase yet.
Oh, yes, we are.
Yeah.
We've gone out to bid. We have the construction company. We're ready to go.
Right. What I'm suggesting is you're still navigating through some larger issues.
Mm-hmm.
And is that something you think the county would be willing to help you with?
Well, I was going to ask them. That was one of the suggestions someone had.
Okay.
So I was going to ask them. But, the other thing we have to look at is, how much do we need to borrow? Because I need to, go ahead and put that into place. Any other public comment? Town board comments?
I just have one comment. As you know, you selected me to be the Veterans Liaison for the Town of Amenia Veterans. And I finally got a phone call from them, and I'll be attending a meeting on Tuesday, September 17th, out in Poughkeepsie. So I'll be finding out just what the heck I'm doing.
Oh, good. Well, thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Our veterans are very important to us.
Right, yes.
Okay, if there any other town board comments?
I wanted to thank the Town Highway Department for providing a load of wood chips from the Dutchess County Sheriff's Substation for our work party on August 31st with the Amenia Garden Club. And it was a very successful first step in reclaiming the Borden Park, which had been overgrown with some aggressive weeds. And so we pulled weeds and put mulch down, and we'll go on to phase 2 of this reclaiming of the garden area. One thing that's very clear right up front is that we do have to replace the 2 signs that have lived their useful life. They're peeling, the laminate is peeling back, and I think it was a very reasonable price of like $1,800, and we knew it was only going to last 15 years is the maximum you can expect, which Vinnie Libel helped us with that grant, which gives you a sense of the time that it has been installed, about 15 years. So I think what we should do is look at the remaining funds in the community beautification line and go ahead and order those. Even if they're not installed right away, we could get that out of this year's budget and make sure we're ready to go for the other plantings next year. So I'll look into that with the Amenia Garden Club as to the next steps that'll be part of our budgeting for 2020 as well. Are there any questions about Borden Park and that effort to bring back the plantings and
Have you
clean up?
decided on the picnic tables yet?
So I think that would be part of our budgeting for next year. There were some options that Annette came up with, which were very helpful, and we wanted to make sure that whatever we buy is pretty vandal-proof, because we've had people jump on the wooden bench seats and break them very specifically. We've had them stolen out of there, so they have to be anchored, and we want them to be not rotting prematurely.
so you'll put it
we're
in
gonna
for
be
next year?
a little on the expensive side, but we think longevity is more important because of the effort of installing it and making sure it stays in one piece for a long time would be good. So I will put that together for the budget for 2020 with their help.
Okay, sounds
I
good.
wanted to thank the CAC and the Enhancement Committee because there was some overlap there as well, but we had a really good representation. It was very, very nice to the Amenia Garden Club providing that volunteer effort.
Is there any other town board comments?
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 822.